What if the best way to find out if somebody is using you or taking advantage of you is actually to look at yourself? This is different from what most people think it is. Normally, you would be looking for signs in other people that they are using you, that they're taking advantage of you, different behaviors, different characteristics. No, we're going to bring the focus back on the self for this. The likelihood that somebody is using you or taking advantage of you if you are seeking help and information in this area is high. The question to ask yourself is, do you or do you not have healthy boundaries? If you lack healthy boundaries, the likelihood that at least one person out there is using you or taking advantage of you is very high. If you lack healthy boundaries, the likelihood that you are attracted to people that use you and take advantage of you is very high. If you lack healthy boundaries, the likelihood that you attract people that use you and take advantage of you is very high. And the reason being is because you lack healthy boundaries. You lack a point at which you stop. You lack a point at which you say no. You lack a point at which you say enough. And people that also lack healthy boundaries and use and take advantage of people also lack the no, the stop, and the enough. If you lack healthy boundaries, the likelihood that you have people in your life that are using you and taking advantage of you is very high. But the focus is actually to remain on the self. If you lack healthy boundaries, yeah, there are probably people out there that are using you and taking advantage of you. But why do you lack healthy boundaries? You probably lack healthy boundaries because you were raised with a lack of healthy boundaries. You were raised with boundary violations. You were raised by people that used you and took advantage of you in ways that were, that in and of itself is unhealthy. There's no way of that being healthy. The important thing here is, rather than focusing on the behaviors and the characteristics of other people that you feel might be using you, the focus here is brought back on the self. And if you're watching this video, if you've looked up keywords that would be, am I being used by people? Are people using me? Are people taking advantage of me? Then the likelihood that there are people in your life that are taking advantage of you is very high. But why are they taking advantage of you? Why are they using you? Well, they're using you. They're taking advantage of you because you lack healthy boundaries. I'm bringing it all back to the self. If I had people in my life that were using me and taking advantage of me, I can go out there and study the hell out of them. I can. Ooh, what are the behaviors? What are the characteristics? Cool. What about myself? If I have people in my life that are using me, that are taking advantage of me, what does it have to say about me? Let's bring the focus back to the self. Oh, I lack healthy boundaries. This is just an example. If, then. If I have people in my life that are using me, that are taking advantage of me, then I lack healthy boundaries. I lack no. I lack stop. I lack enough. If Chris does not have a structure of start and end, and instead he is just boundaryless, he's going to be used. He's going to be taken advantage of. If you, whoever you are, lack structure of start and end. This is where I begin. This is where I end. This is enough. Whatever is in here is what I give and I receive effortlessly. If you do not have defined boundaries, if you do not have defined no, defined stop, defined enough, that, by the way, that in and of itself you have zero anxiety around. Some people, probably many people, that lack healthy boundaries usually experience anxiety around saying no, around saying stop, around saying enough. Usually because they're terrified of either being rejected or being abandoned. It doesn't matter what it is. There's probably some original wound there that's stopping them from actually saying no, stop, enough. If you lack defined, healthy boundaries, and your boundaries are either permeable or non-existent, the likelihood that you have people in your life that are using you, that are taking advantage of you, is very high. And these are usually people that see you as more so extensions of them. That's why they use you. They don't really see you as a person. They see you as an extension of them. You are no different from their finger or their fingers. Oh, I'm going to use these fingers to pick up something. You are no different. So instead of trying to run tests and ask people questions and try to figure out if people are using you and taking advantage of you, oh, what are their behaviors? What are their characteristics? I mean, you can. You absolutely can. But I would argue the more important question is to ask yourself whether or not you have healthy boundaries. Now, let me make this very clear. People that have healthy boundaries, one, do not get used and taken advantage of by people because they do not associate with people that lack healthy boundaries. People that have healthy boundaries do not form relationships with people that lack healthy boundaries. So those people are out of the scenario. Those people are out of the question. The way to transform this dynamic is to set healthy boundaries with people. Yes, there will be tension because you might be afraid of being rejected. You might be afraid of being abandoned. You might be afraid of that person leaving you and wanting nothing to do with you anymore because, oh, you set boundaries and then they couldn't use you as the extension of themselves that they saw you as, and now you're causing too much turbulence in their life and they don't like that and they don't want anything to do with you anymore. Lovely. Bye. You really don't have to go far to figure out if somebody is using you or taking advantage of you. You don't. The first person to look at is yourself. Look at your boundaries or your lack thereof or the permeability of them. It's not hard to tell it in other people, but it's easier to just look at yourself. Do you lack healthy boundaries? If you lack healthy boundaries, you're probably attracted to people that also lack healthy boundaries and use and take advantage of you. That's just the way that it is. You don't have to go far. But there is something that you have to do, and that is work on yourself in regards to developing healthy boundaries, setting them with yourself and people. You really don't even have to set, I mean, yes, you set boundaries with other people, but when you set boundaries with yourself, when you make yourself aware of what it is that you want to experience with other people, you will very rapidly see whether or not other people are formed for that. If what you want is a healthy boundaried dynamic of a relationship with other people, where they do not use you, they do not take advantage of you, you will see a lack of those unhealthy characteristics in people, and then you will go out and form relationships with them. But let me make it very clear, just before I end off this video. Consider it like an energetic thing. Consider it like an energetic exchange between self and other. If you lack healthy boundaries, you are attracted to people that also lack healthy boundaries. And actually, let me turn this around real quick. Say, for instance, you are the person that is actually using people and taking advantage of people. I just realized I could make a part 2 to this and talk about something that goes even further into it. And I might do that, but let's focus on this first. If you want to ask yourself, shit, am I using people? Am I taking advantage of people? This could happen. This could totally happen. And it's funny because I could never really imagine anybody like actually like becoming aware and being like, fuck, am I actually using people? Am I taking advantage of them? Maybe it happens. I don't know. You don't have to look at the other person and see that they're just way too giving and they give way too much because they lack healthy boundaries. Just look at yourself. Oh, wow, I am using them. Oh, wow, I am taking advantage of them because I lack healthy boundaries. I lack this idea of enough from other people. It's the same thing. You don't have to try to figure out if the rest of the world is using you and taking advantage of you, or if the rest of the world is being too giving and you don't have this healthy idea of enough. Just simply look at yourself and say, do I lack healthy boundaries? And not only that, but also, do I lack a healthy viewpoint of other people? Do I see other people as a means to an end? Do I see other people as utility? Do I see other people as a narcissistic extension of myself? And what do I do with that information? You don't have to go far. You have so many answers within yourself. If you lack healthy boundaries, the likelihood that you are being used and taken advantage of is very high. If you lack healthy boundaries, the likelihood that you are also in relationships with people that give way too much and you don't have this idea of enough in your mind, and therefore you just continue to take and take and take and take and take, you lack healthy boundaries.